Hello guys and welcome to MaxDps preparation guide. In this time it will be a really short stream and I will show you how to make, well, a basic profile from a simcraft. This time it will be DH Frost. So first thing, you gotta have a character on max level and switch to the specialization you want to convert to MaxDps rotation. I'm also using a really small add-on named Scrapper. I'm not sure if I have it enabled, but let's see. It's not public add-on because all it does is basically list all of your spells in a CSV format, comma separated, so it's like an Excel. Its name is Scrapper, so I'm enabling it. I'm putting a command run Scrapper show, and this is how it works. Basically it lists every spell and every talent you have with the ID, name, cast time, minimum range, maximum range, is it passive, is it talent, what is the cooldown, and if it costs anything. For example, there are a few spells that uses the Runic power, as we can see from here. And this one uses 1 rune and some of the Runic power. So basically I'm copying it and I'm pasting it on my rotation generator, which is public on my GitHub. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be called, but we will see that later. Frost CSV. Okay, so here is what we have. Rotation generator is a mechanism written in PHP that converts simcraft profiles. This time we will be doing a frost rotation, so let me just find it. So we have this simulation craft repository which holds all the profiles, and in this case we needed Dead Night Frost. So this profile. We don't actually need to download it because rotation generator does it by itself. All I need to know is what is the command for Dead Night Frost. So this is this. Usage is very simple, just PHP, convert PHP, and the name of a profile we want to generate. We can see sometimes action blacklisted, which means that MaxDps is ignoring common things like usage of trinkets. Trinkets will probably never be implemented. There are just too many of them. Arcane torrents, so it also doesn't support ratios. However, you can make some profiles to actually support them, but for now I won't. For example, flask food, that's your job to remember about it. It's not for the add-on for you to do it. And if I would implement everything that is supposed to be in the game, it will be really annoying to have flashing bars all over the place. Not always you want to use the flask or food like for trivial content, and it would be just annoying. Same for the augmentation rune, snapshotting stats, which is basically not possible, the potion, auto attack, those things are performed automatically, and it would be dumb to highlight auto attack. Anyways, we have this profile generated, and we have the spells we were putting in the CSV because we need both name and the ID of the spell. They don't always match, and sometimes you need to fix them by hand. For example, I'm not sure if them if the DK has things like that, but not always the aura ID is the same as the spell ID. So this is something to know. For example, I don't know, Horn of Winter. No, it's instant, but maybe Anti-Magic Shell. As we see, Anti-Magic Shell is the ID of 48707. And if we enable it, it's the same ID. So, but this is something to check, if the ID is the same. The chains of ice the same. If we have some target here, let me check. The chains of ice 45524, and it's the same. Remorseless Winter 2111793. Yeah, we just had an example that the debuff ID was different than actual spell ID. So what we need to do now is to write down this ID of this aura. So Remorseless Winter. They're not always necessary, but it's good to check the profile if it checks for any debuffs. Yeah, we have the Razor Eyes, which may be different than the spell itself. Frost Fever, which we probably don't even have, because the scrapper doesn't scrap the debuffs from the targets. It's not possible to check this in game. I have a little profiler inside the MaxDps, but I'm not using it. I'm just doing it by hand. So Frost Fever is 55095. And there we go. This is pre-generated with a lot of bugs. So as you can see, there are things like Runic power deficit which are not calculated. We have multiple Runic power checks, but well, they don't work like this. For the DH, I have a special function that take care of calculating runes. And the Runic power deficit, well, basically any power deficit is power max minus the current power. So if you have like 50 Runic power and your maximum Runic power is 100, then the Runic power deficit will be the 50. If it will be like, if you have 70 Runic power, then the deficit will be 30. So it's the maximum minus current. What else do I need to tell? There are things like this time to die which are built in MaxDps, and it's all in the frame data. Basically, frame data inside MaxDps are a collection of the buffs, debuffs, your buffs, debuffs on the target, things like time to die, so when your current target is going to die, your Azerite traits, cooldown of the spells, which is this, your talents, the GCD, which is probably your maximum GCD. What else? Thanks for following. And it's not really ready for any tests because there are a lot of undefined variables here, like for example this one. So you gotta use the, and above every condition there is a original Simcraft line. So if you get this one, go back to your profile and you will find it here. So basically it's an action in the obliteration rotation. So my rotation generator also keeps track of which one is yeah, so it keeps track of which condition corresponds to action in Simcraft profile. What else? We have the Runic power deficit, and we have time to 4. Oh wow. I think we can skip that one, because basically you have to use the frost sight if you will have 4 runes longer than in one global cooldown, which basically means we need to check that you have about 4 runes. What do you mean faster with stacks? Yeah, ifs are necessary, because here's how it goes. We have a top rotation. No, it wouldn't be working easier. Basically, ifs can be really complex. You can have like 10,000 nested ifs, and there are some rotation that includes it. Also, if you have one condition checking, it won't check other ones, because why 4? Plus it's also faster. I've checked, and MaxDps in combat well, it is, but I will tell you how I do it. Basically, I'm checking every condition and reformatting by hand. For example, this one, it's pretty long, but it can be wrapped around like this. Some of the conditions can be, the braces can be removed, but this one cannot. There's one thing different between MaxDps and Simcraft. Simcraft checks every condition every time, which is time consuming. For example, in a Simcraft you won't find any check if you have necessary resources to cast some specific spell. In the profile, you won't have any checks that spell is on the cooldown, and some of them are. Like for example, Remorseless Winter. I'm not sure why Runic power was Remorseless Winter. No, so for example, we have this Remorseless Winter condition. It doesn't use any Runic power, so this is something we can remove. but it has cooldown and it has to be checked. And it uses runes, so this also has to be checked. And the original condition is basically here. So those two conditions are added because of rotation generator in CSV I have generated. Because this spell is not free and has a cooldown. And we have to cast it only when we have a Talent Gathering Storm or Azerite trait Frozen Tempest. We have more than 3 targets and we don't have buff named Rhyme. There are 2 options to check things like this, because my scrapper does not scrap any buffs and debuffs. So as long as you see buff Rhyme or Azerite Frozen Tempest, this is something to check. For example, I am checking it in Azerite Power Weights. And any checks, I'm doing it with A. I'm making a local table. This is basically something like associative array. Frozen Tempest. And I'm extracting it from the data from Azerite Power Weights. I'm checking for Frozen Tempest. And I have this spell ID here. So I'm copying it and putting it here. This is a table for Frozen Tempest. And where was I? Yeah, here. So this time I have the Frozen Tempest. So buffs, debuffs, and Azerite, those things are not scrapped. And buff named Rhyme. There are 2 ways to check it. Either in game by hitting some of the targets, but I just don't want to do it right now. Or in Google. To cause your next howling blast to consume no runes and deal 300 additional damage. Apply aura, proc, trigger spell. And the buff. This is also something to watch out for, because from what we can see on a Vob head, there are 2 Rhyme spells, and I'm not really sure which one is it. Well, debugging code is pretty simple, but we can simply just hit some killing machine. But I can't use the obliteration because I don't have a... Damn it. One hand, one. Oh, whatever. I just need 2 one-handed weapons. So I can spam some obliteration. Oh yeah, we have it. 59052. 59052. And I'm always calling it Rhyme Aura. So whenever the code checks for the Rhyme and it's a buff, we have to check for the Rhyme Aura. No, but you usually bind your ratios to some kind of cooldown anyways. You don't want to be using your ratio without any other cooldown. So yeah, any checking for the buff needs to check for the rhyme aura, not just rhyme, because rhyme is maybe a talent or something, or your mastery. Scrapper checks everything from the spell book, maybe yeah, it's a passive. So this one is just a passive, and we have to check for the real rhyme. So if we are checking any buff, that needs to be rhyme aura. Accept comments. Rhyme aura, rhyme aura, rhyme aura, rhyme aura. Okay, so that's it for the first tutorial. I will be making possibly in the near future some more, but this is not really super easy, but it's not also really hard. However, it's time consuming. Every condition needs to be checked by sanity and by correct spell IDs. So that's it, guys. I'm ending the stream.